Hear any sound?
Yeah, okay.
Hello? I don't hear anything. 지금 왜? 나 보도. 보면도 그냥 괜찮지도.
So you cannot hear anything?
Now I can, but it's very muffled. Like right before I couldn't hear anything.
Strange.
Yeah, now it's a bit better, I think. Okay.
Jiba tamchi jesu jibe ma namka dan nyambe semchen tamchi dewa dan den dongara dan chi nyor tu lana me bara yang ta bara zobe chancho rinpo chi to bara chai dala damara jibe chai no bara jibe agai Karva dong tam chi chenpe partu ju para cheba tam chi to chebe ma nam ka dong nyambe sem chen tam chi dewa dong den dong ara dong je nyor tu la na me Mre zobe chancho rinpo chi to pa cha
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Samje bartu lunga yisun gewala ko.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Okay, so the shall the race and tron, the Yevon Yome, Sergeant from both the Vorigi, shall the Jerry, Shabla, Charles, the Lord of Jaman, the Lord of the Meta, who father, the Van Gonzales, and the Zavela, may has a Yunama, Lam Chujon, Azurba, and the Sod of Ju Chinjero. Or that person, the Mars from the Taterwa, Lamcho, the Chachua. You may tune it, set on Metse, you may to Metse, you to the way you may to set on use on this. 同米雷了啥的，同米切话雷了谁的胖谁的哇，他这里，他对你嘛现在他俺嘛这种么就是这人不偷个的那个玩嘛那种，他平常吃就当他其他偷个嘛的话，那你面对其他鱼嘛，那么种就当推嘛人吧，他就真去学呗，推嘛人吧，他就真去学这，那么这人就去那老家是做这个了哇。他家说错的，他用的，他家说那他们他是不要些 gas， 那偏拖起他没办法，说有家嘛拖把的嘛，说这说把几牙了，刚也有办法，但是对强着个了，
Yes. Ja, Liedsa kapa microphone tan yena dire natanda di
他们那都丢，那都还，
nadin volume chishiri na pe chungchuma to kun
这里头，
this
this no much less than there，
can you I don't know if it's possible to turn off
这
the
样可以
volume.
听不清点都，
Really, it was like not really loud, but yeah. Then jogla khara gate tu khara phento yomare jogla khara songson gate ne khara phento yomare
看这，
jogla thi soyin ba
他看到哎， 让我看到哎，
it's okay. Okay. Jog nga gate ko gito.
看到口清不到，是吧？
Ngona.
都。 This word again.
Oh, maybe.
看到的，
Oh, it's better. Yes.
Okay.
查下送哎，
Oh, much better, yeah.
呀，真的，但是因面头呢，这种鱼怎么的，我们来了谁的胖谁拉多，他头因面头是当然就头因嘛，搞话我根本就是这人不偷个的那个话，他头因嘛谁的，他是这人嘛是，这人嘛我都是这人嘛，头因嘛这个多他，我听的我这这人嘛的意思。 我这人嘛，这这通过，这当老家是做这个人，俺说这人效应了，他，我这人去老家是做那，他这说有我家嘛做这人，这刚也有就是吃的晚上当时，我真的，我他对的，他推满一把真是真切学的，可现在呢，老穷刚切个的，可现在呢，我是全部强能切个的，那可些他的嘛是，可些听对切个的话，这这通是有怎么的是，有怎么的，有怎么，我的。 俺说，咱这，就是看对送这些人过出去嘛的，说么的话，这就出去嘛，这就那么的，就是做到去了。就是没来的呗，就商家弄的，没在谁那么多的，上你在给把小伙做不成的，他在那里是个来看到，上你在这边的差现在上你在那里干来看的，我听对这些，这没这些都同意。千万来了，谁的胖是他从大可能没来，就是做完多少呢？偏没些胖不的，是他没些从的呢。 我真的，咱儿子从那没来个别忙不着个的，来个就上那从大有把些长没吧，前几天你讲来个找嘛头的了，我这里就是别讲这些，咱俺做平常特别多，俺让做长嘛的，平常卡帕子那在大下头，从大下头有嘛的，咱这里呢就是在做，从那在那忙些做那卡帕呢，咱的爱碰的那是在做，那好像没种，就是看到从过没做的。 差的嘞，他干嘛？就是20步了，我想他听懂，提纲的原因从的，就是从我这来做，从大会没来，刚来在考对，现在要从大没来，个做其他的没来在了，刚来先在考，他原来那个原因的在做的时候他就说，那俺们人都说要嘛的话，他可能不去这种讲人了，他得去搞了，他推人嘛是那，他才是啥的，可这里这个影响，那就是有了我其实他，我在记，呀，在马上讲。
So we continue with our text and the ornament of the sublime path. So we are in verse number 3 that says, this fleeting human life, already short in this dark age, is wasted when spent on pointless activities. So this dark age, that is the degenerate age. And so it is said that in a long time ago, in this aeon, people had longer lifespans, and a short lifespan is one of the characteristics of these like 5 kinds of degenerations. It's a degenerate age. So now we don't grow so old. And also nowadays, many people die an untimely death. You know, the longest maybe we live around 100 years, but there's really just only a few who actually do live 100 years. And then even like if we grow that old, most of our really old age, it is quite difficult. It creates a great hardship for us and others. And so there's not so much we can do. And then there is some who die when they're already very young. Some they die as adults, some they die when they're older. But this life is just very short. And we don't know when we are going to die. Life is just exhausting itself. The time is coming to an end very quickly. J.T. Miller-Reba had said that by procrastinating Dharma practice, our life comes to an end. So also often we think that I do want to practice the Dharma, but just not today. I'm a little bit too tired today. I have too much to do. I will do it tomorrow for sure, or some other time soon. And so this is how we keep procrastinating. And this is how our already very short life just comes to an end, just passes by. And so Milarepa said that this is a great loss. And so in our lives, we do so many things, but most of these things are very meaningless. And for the most part, whatever we do, either in the Dharma or in the world, there's very little things we really actually accomplish. So we are basically just really wasting most of our time, especially nowadays where everyone has their iPhone, and all we really do is play with our iPhone, and we don't know where time has gone. Time just flies by because we have these iPhones. And most of our time we actually spend on these iPhones, and whatever we are looking on there is for the most part not really meaningful. And then when we get off it, we wonder, like, where has time gone? Time went by so fast. And this was not how it was in the old days, but it's because in the old days, we didn't have all of these distractions. And so not only do we waste all of our time, it also actually is exhausting. We're exhausted afterwards and nothing is accomplished. So really our life passes by as we are distracted on the internet. And at the time of Gambopa, obviously there was no internet. And so during that time when those masters were talking about the degenerate age, this is what they have been talking about. It's that time where we are, where time flies by because we are so distracted. That's the degenerate age. So.
Oh, then that just me la repe. Chinchen la me shenga ne, so just me la that kung la ma chinchen marwa rawa. Shato denba ningma las, shato denba ningma, shata tupe denba ningma las. Menam tsetong longchu u, sta me tseto tsetong longchu u. Dore u parchu mame cher sa da du tseto parchi chinya. Da tsete linga to parchi mambo gore. Da chibe jen te pe mambo gore. Zenda manda da yungerwa, se jen da manda da de ne ka se在某场中某的浪过程中，我这来看来呀，提出那在建房部这用去为建房部用不的，那个种参呢，除非建议是什么的，面制作了点的这没厕所说的呀，有的啊，这说满处外去什么满处外，面这种满处外，我听你这块去房部有类似，有人去有人都被农民，是吧？他有人不是都要农有嘛的，那俺当初他们在西亚怎么去那kur个嘛的，俺当初的，而且俺做西九他们怎么去那kur个嘛哇？我因那他有人不都要农有嘛的是。我这次从我是真写检查了，确定没，是我的写检查，他就我录用期多，他就我确实搞来考不有的是，决定签证没事是，我的决定是说那路是说，在了希望这一千把买新拿，我这边人不忙写送，是我的呢， 那就让你们俩去主办要不去些，马上给这种从事。我讲来了，马季呢，是的，我给来了马季呢，这你们就是没来的配的呢，马上干些，我的呢，年意思。真的，当那出文吧，他呢是我在这出这种这样，类似搞到忙不进光明，他娘就接送，是我的娘跑出要不就是接着我们那里吧，过来才就讲娘跑接的，马上说没那里边过来讲啥在对呢，好了他什么没过反正过来有完开始在能把事都熬的，我这里他在天桥是宁波的，没些有通电脑在车间做不上去差不多呀，我才就把你们俩汽油的。我做我这个人说，但是拉不穷的我现在今年给别拉萨块儿是起码偏下乡，起码有人过了哇。我这天你个人说，这开起不的，但呢，我现在的国嘛的做什么现在了，但没什么做外结果，我过来的呢，在学了在说推说的，你们那的系统呢，俺这点偏套型的哇。
And then Milarepa said that this is what my kind guru had told me. So his kind guru was Marpa. And so he said that during the time of our teacher, Uda Shakya Muni, had said that later in the degenerate age, this age is marked by the demons, obstacles, and demonic forces. There are so many causes that will lead to being's death. So there will be more and more causes leading to death. For example, you can see that there's so many things now that can happen to us. We can have a car accident or any other accident, or something happens at work and so on. And then even those things that are actually meant to sustain our lives, like food or medicine, can also turn into causes of our death. Sometimes we're unable to, our body doesn't agree. We may have some a reaction to something that we eat, a medicine, and then we die. And so either way, we do not have a long time in this life. Our time is very short. But then people do not think about that. People don't think about, I'm going to die. We live as though we are going to stay. And so therefore, and Milarepa said, there is no end to learning and exploring things. But what's of real meaning is to actually engage in practice to prepare for a future life. This is what my guru Marpa had told me, and I followed his instruction. I practiced in mountain retreat where I focused. I put my body through a lot of hardships and I meditated. And eventually this grew into great realization. So now when we look at the hardships that Milarepa endured for practice, it is actually really like beyond our mind. It's totally inconceivable. And he really exemplifies someone who has really made the best out of a precious human body. What he did is he practiced and attained enlightenment in a single lifetime. So that is the best ideal case. Ideally, that's how we would think. And we would think beyond this life into future life, because future lives are much longer than this life. That's why practice is so important. And so that does not mean that we do not need to care about worldly things at all. Of course, we also need to survive. We need to make a living. But we should still try to do the best we can to take as much time as possible to practice.
真的，咱我当初的，这趟咱我当初听讲，我说没听说有人我当初从嘛的，这样吧，吃用的真的，我就不可能的什么，那肯定有的，在人我做，但在人这边按照我的全给的人这么的用多啊，在挺多用多啊，真的呢，他在说，来的在用个多些，在南上在人这穷用做，这片特别个来看不的，俺们来咋好的，这也不是我当初我嘛做过去。他那可能呢，对人肉体偏向都是那什么这样活动的，这种我那天听对嘛的，因为来啥以后，来啥以后的话，可 在的间嘛，这样的问题来的咋说？这个他南上在中国，南上在看小说用过嘛吧？那的上节课，真的出节这个，什么谁的嘞？这谁的真的什么都还没来说就对吧？人多的多，怕了是下次接触学嘛吧？说来着的，来我们那样子听不了吧？
So nowadays, many of us, when we encounter a real misfortune and something really terrible happens to us, we tend to think, why does this happen to me? Why is it just me? And then we try to do all kinds of things to avoid this hardship. For example, we ask for special prayers, pujas to dispel this obstacle. But actually, that obstacle arises as a result of past karma. And so for this reason, it is very difficult for a puja to help is right away, just like that, and just make it all go away. But people don't understand that, and they think that this is going to help, this is going to make it all go away. But then this doesn't happen because of karma. If we have already created that karma in the past of encountering this difficult circumstance now. And so since we have that karma, we can't expect these immediate quick results that clear away all of our problems. So the Buddha gave these methods, these practices, with great compassion to benefit sentient beings, and they do eliminate suffering. But also we have to keep in mind that we have karma. We have the karma to meet a certain condition, and we cannot expect that it immediately, any kind of practice immediately wipes all of our problems out. So.
真的，那咋不能不接？这七万没他，在国呢，七万没他，在国呢，真的自己去出钱的，也就进去没有，做牛娘是那般就为的是。我当然我当做的，咱忙是来了，忙不在学的，这学了呀，他七万没他没这事。我真七万没他，要不在这样的呢？真的，咱来了地方是没学的。我这别强什么来的办那些的，进去没了在你们去出呀，我才去学了吧，就没得事。总之说，其实在白天呢，但上坡在兄弟呢，咱就不想着头个了，咱们提纲加三多钱，咱就我就着个了，我等到一样的，你们来去呀，工程着头呀，我曾经有的是，咱今天中我跟俺说，你对这个就我着呢，我着啥些，我这的这这也啥的，在做我的这趟去呢，俺说落到些天就你个我这么他们我在老远有的，平常但落到这就要不再接送呢，我这的呢这个你们提出来了，很多情况有的是。
Bopa said that if you remember the impermanence of this life, if you remember death, that will drive you to engage in practice continuously. And so most of us are generally a little bit lazy. And the reason why we are lazy is because we don't really think about impermanence, the impermanence of this life. We don't think about dying. If we would think about it, we would not be lazy. We can see an example in Milarepa. And this is why he practiced all the time. So thinking about impermanence is an kind of what drives you to practice with diligence. It's just like a very quick horse in a race. So you become like this really excellent horse, like the horse rider, and then also the horse rider sometimes whips the horse a little bit, and then it runs even faster. So it's like this quick horse that is being whipped. And so this is how our practice increases. And as you mentioned before, Thigden Sumgen said that, to me, the preliminary practices are more profound than those main part practices. And so he referred to the four thoughts that turn the mind, such as death and impermanence. If we really integrate that in our mind stream, if you really think about those four thoughts, that will be the greatest benefit to our practice.
真的，这当俺让做的时候，对是开心不的，娘俩去的， 那这个在当年的这这种金把这个开始了哈，咱们起初嘛，这样的这时候也得时间呢开起步了，你嘛这个题查吧这个啦，但这个题的单价有了，这里如果今年你嘛的话了，后边忙不了别的事，你嘛的你送皮筋把它票下来。我这里对真的查吧，这种我忙了错，他说的公告里忙了错多啊，这查吧种做唔到太多，真错晓得。我真错红对查吧种可能哈那反正俺那就写的咱们怎么可能用的是别解有嘛的是，我那天记了，查吧这 OK，那忙了错着的吧，如果是，那查吧可能做写的咱们怎么别解可能嘛的是查吧听完了是，
是的，
我俺那写下有咱们怎么别解可能，有可能嘛的是的，那如果你嘛你做我们的票的话，在那个咱这从嘛忙了错着的话。忙了错送的真的，那这把可能做忙了东西呢，别来的面子可能做挺就不写的，怎么赔钱？不用嘛的是。
好，这个找吧的了不得。
对吧？这那么多，我那点半钟了，可得写下嘛，那可能做其他程序嘛了吧？那可能做他程序这一块的话，同样没来那个那从米推出出来嘛，送的，你们那去过的下拉学，他干不背多少呢
So it's really important to at least spend some time and to paying attention to practice, and because so of course we cannot completely give up everything in our practice, but we should really think about our death and keep that in mind when we engage in practice. And there was once to remember there was this monk from Trikung Til, and he said once that over there there's all these monks who meet together to hold prayer sessions, and every day a lot of them would come and they would gather and they would recite for days on end. And they would do all these practices, but he said, this monk said that actually I don't think that any of them really thinks about death. They may just recite those things, but they don't really think about death. And it's really true. We don't really think about our death. And so the point here really is what Gamboba is saying is that don't waste your time in meaningless thoughts or activities, but practice.
我真的在这里嘛，从这天到晚上让什么求口，让一周真的，周明能出完苦完当的青灯碰，我在让什么在我那些求口的，他求口他和他这样子那求口当年的拉出来，我在当年的东半年我那些呢，周八参加趟车多的，周八是那个有八趟没吧，但是这就上面周八趟车的有的是，我在周八天他妈车的。我那些他周吧，当年就是春着呀嘛的，但俺说我嘛些话，现在但春着晓得是，这可能咱们那怕是的，那边咱们那说是，咱们在那在山咱们在哪有呢？这要通透嘛，那别搞那个罗呀，我但春呢，但可能等咱们这么听那嘛啥是，我在那个说呢，在那旁边的是，我在那那个绿墙着的。那恰当莫送拉索吧，这就人打不着的，这个他说干嘛的？这个人打不着的，恰当莫送他说在抢的，真的，也他妈头发这点这就其中旁边的是他妈的也是。
The next verse says, "The mind whose unobstructed nature is Dharmakaya is wasted by sinking into the muddy swamp of samsaric delusion." Also in the jewel ornament of liberation, it says the mind is the Dharmakaya, and the Dharmakaya is emptiness. And emptiness is that state without elaboration and without any mental conceptual fabrication. There is no concept of being, not being, this or that. And within emptiness, there is no confusion. One cannot be confused in emptiness, but because we don't recognize our emptiness, we are confused. And this confusion causes us to sink in the muddy swamp of samsaric delusion. So when you sink in a muddy swamp, it's very difficult to get out. Once you fell in, it's very hard to get out. And that is a great loss. And so how do we fall in? We fall in through those afflictive emotions of attachment, hatred, and ignorance. They drag us into this samsaric swamp. And once we're in there, it's very hard to become liberated. That is a great loss.
我真的干不别，咱多最错是一呢，什么的咱在求克的时候，求就过来是，那我求求什么天姐姐吧，这求就过来是，那我天姐姐吧，这求可好的是，大家做什么的求可东半年的，那我最好脏的是，但是我让做他那我才这样穿着去了，那我拍出来的样子，我们大看了过来，这差，这都这种当。真的点小当毛什么听着，去穿着个，这个能有的这是过呢，这年把这穷呢，在亚国哦，他说亚国恰是这嘎贝现在这，真的这这满年把这穷呢，哦，他这门都上写当了，可菜的人呢，我说别的，但自己做个哇，我这去这哪是困的嘛的，我那天让伊，我问你呢，哪把差吧的，哪是困的就他们我他们我这伊呢，让伊哪把差吧的是的。我这健康那送他车多的，健康那送没有嘛，长保健我嘛，刚都要嘛，三分的了，马上就问对吧？这是马上就问对吧？晓得吧？他娘用，他娘是用话他就这是。
And Gaboba said that in brief, the mind itself, or the innate mind itself, is the Dharmakaya, and the innate appearances, meaning that the natural state, the nature of appearances, is that these all appearances are the light of the Dharmakaya. So everything that we perceive is nothing but the light of the Dharmakaya, which is our own mind. But normally, it is exactly these appearances that confuse us. So these appearances, which are actually our own self-projection, is what leads us astray. And so we perceive things as pleasant, so when we have a desire for them, and then there's something that we do not like and we hate it. Or for example, you hear a beautiful sound and you love the sound. If you hear something very unpleasant, you hate what you hear. And so this is how we misperceive reality, when actually everything that appears and exists, samsara and nirvana, is by nature completely pure as the self-light, the reflection of the Dharmakaya. And so therefore, what appears is without, since it is the self-light of Dharmakaya, it is without arising, it is without abiding, and it never ceases to be. It is inexpressible, beyond words and beyond thoughts.
等等几点钟公给这种的话，等等除了的肯定出什么？那什么一天我在工作上就是说做这些是做半米吧，这些没吧这些呢，但去弄拿去去哪弄去，那去哪弄去了吧？去哪弄去？他们没他妈啥是没这么的大了，他没这么的大。这点从他送到的，他你每天送的，别想着想那他去那啥多热茶，现在说的，别看吧，让我咱们这有了看吧，前面的听着有的，这样那去弄的，拿去钱的是，咱没听着，这有的没来钱呐，他也话忙不这，没的咱们那忙不这大是吧？这点呢，那可以在那哑巴人吧，他说年现听着这大红的。年是亚音吧起，这是抖音吧起，但人都恰当在吹的，但吹恰当他妈起的，但恰当他妈起呢，这从这里他吹着的，从啊的这边你吹着的，这从这里呢，但吹着的是。
Logic Songgen explained how we become confused. Why are we confused in a state of delusion? So he said that actually mind itself by nature is unelaborated. So without mental elaboration. However, we label everything. So the outer universe, everything that appears, the inanimate universe, and all the sentient beings in that universe, we label them with names. We give them names. And then from these names, from these labels, meaning arises. And so then we ascribe certain meanings or characteristics to them. So we call things earth or rock or a mountain or a cliff, a house, one's home, or beings. There's different kinds of animals and there's different kinds of human beings, and they all have different names that we give them. And so then, since meaning arises from labels, from names, we then categorize them. So some are good and some are bad. And whatever we perceive as friendly to us, we say that this is good. And whatever is hostile, we call this bad. This is worse. So it's our attachment and aversion that confuse us. But this attachment and aversion actually arises from this dualistic perception, where we perceive a subject-object duality. That's it.
真的真的这天中，但出现只有看的是那些，但出现只有看的是那这个呢是看的是这个呢是看呢，东安娘是用的，但别想着是要把市场东安娘和一大，但别想着这空东安娘说，这从这人口没几个那起来说，但这个呢一大来抽有人多他没那说的他。那么也是差不多东安有，他起步东西东安有，而这这些东安这娘是用的，yes。
And then Jigten Songden said, so what is the result? What comes from delusion, confusion? What comes from it is the experience of suffering in the 6 realms of samsara. There are the hell beings who experience heat and cold, and the hungry spirits who experience hunger and thirst, and the animals who experience stupidity and enslavement, and human beings who experience birth, old age, sickness and death, and the jealous gods who experience constant conflict, fighting, and the gods who experience death and then falling down from their godly states.
我真的，咱出来的话，多3种，咱看出去，我来承担几天钟，他说的，出来多个差不看有真的，出来的东亚钱过来，咱出来东亚钱吧去，等几天出了就完结过来，几天出了就完结，俺这几天出几，让我再穷了，哎呀，我这这个的话，我那同大钱他就完结那呀，我这是，我几天出他都就完了结，你去完没他就过来是，但去完没他才钱吧去过去，我去完没他。 전날 레로 둘이 잡스 뒤춤을 배송 오라 와들 레로 둘이 잡을 그래 잡고 초송도 잡스로 서와대 권초송도 상제 초긴 뒤권초송부터 잡스로 들라마탄 배 담아 되네 와들 다투와 독삼동 단두시고레스.
And then Jigten Songden goes on and he says, so what is our way out of this confusion? What can we do? He said that you have to remember the suffering of samsara. We have to develop a sadness, a disenchantment with these worldly concerns, worldly affairs. So when we achieve like some of those 8 worldly concerns or kind of pursuits, we consider those as a good thing, a success. But actually, from a Dharma perspective, it's not really the case. So he said, remember the impermanence of this life. And also Milarepa said that when you remember it, this impermanence of life and death, you will conquer the demon of laziness. And then, so Jigten Songden goes on, and so you then also remember the refuge of the 3 jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, and follow the instructions of the Holy Guru. These are the methods to overcome confusion.
我咱出来的老别弄，出来做老团别个的开始你是吧？弄的是你是吧？几天钟， 你西班牙也是，别想着想，那他没那么难了，他没那么难，得到那所写个了，得到忙着写了，但你他妈是话，我那天没那么难，得把那也是，我真的那个没那么开的，没那天，你妈喜欢了，得把这别想着这你偏中国的，这两他们太热气用了，真的，你是啥的，连就是他超不嘛是，我真推送的，主要也是，我你真主要的我这多。
So children's karate.
这边中国节呢，我提纲他们是的了，这什么啦？这三名的话，我这你写的这，你写的这连续讲也差不多，嘛的是个追踪的，这是，除非是养猪的，我的是，那他就养起来再养它。
Chicken Songan said that what is an example of this confusion or kind of coming out of this confusion? He said coming out of this confusion is like waking up from sleeping. So for example, when you're sleeping and you dream, you have all kinds of dreams. Sometimes you have good dreams, sometimes you have bad dreams. And until you wake up from that dream, it seems real. Whatever, for example, you dreamt of last night, at the time being, it seemed to be your reality. For example, you may even dream of meeting Chicken Sumgan and you may approach him and give him a big hug. And then you wake up and it's all gone and you realize it's all not real. It was all just your mind. So the dream is sort of the confusion within the confusion.
咱在这看挺久的，挺久的这边中，在这就咱那嘛，咱的让出发咱们咱电把出不的那有人，我说电把出不的，咱出发那的，出发的，我说别人出发的，数据别从这多话，差不多有了，在那里，咱们让一出不的那一的，电把出发那样，这把去年电把出发看样没，先跟我做了，要不再打。你们来起用，因为我那在电把嘛着了，这还空别的是，在嘛多电把出发中，空别的是的。
And then Chicken Sungan also said that so all of those appearances, whatever appears to you, is your own confusion. The confusion is because we believe that what we see, what we experience is real, it really exists. As sort of separate from us. So we have the subject-object perception. We are the subject perceiving the appearances. And we have a very strong fixation to that. We have a very strong perception, a solidified perception of subject and object. Actually, when you actually look at the nature of your mind, when you see the true state of your awareness, of your mind, then you will see that all of these appearances do not truly exist, inherently exist the way they appear. But until we see our own mind, we will perceive appearances as possessing true existence.
真的，咱刚刚说，这里，真的，咱今天中午这里集中多少时间？咱出发多少是从的我问着我开始是，出发说多少场的我开始是呢？这什么去了？车嘛把车过的是，车咱们这是，车咱们车的是，这些咱把车过的是。我这车从那真的写节球的，有了写节球，在运动了写节球的，这节完没吧？东半年的，我这是全东半年，然后节完没吧？写节让咱这块节我说让那个。那些蛮嘎吧，太低迷吧。我在娘是那出发多的，是我的太低些送这种太低迷吧。我蛮嘎吧，这说娘们用说句了，简单的出发多呗。我问着我这也是的，出发多呗我问。
And then Chicken Somgan said, so what is the nature, the essence of a mind that has dispelled all confusion? That mind that has dispelled all confusion is stainless. And so there is no conceptual stain within that mind. And that means that all phenomena, all appearing things appear as empty, as unborn, and they appear as inseparable from oneself. So once you have seen your own awareness, what you see is this kind of unceasing, also in terms of from space, this unceasing awareness. There is no delineation between yourself and the appearances. There's no separation. So when that is seen, then you have separated from all confusion.
真的，咱主要他呗，咱这边这我看的是，咱在过sommer是，咱主要他从天这边在过sommer是，秋可人的咱秋可的人他吧了吧，我南看在位是，平常咱农可是山上北极点的，山上不拉说北极地区点的，咱秋天秋康阳嘛着吧，是农可的，我真的在跟了恰吧在，周围跟就我是在在跟了恰的，在这肯定没得，是的的。 그리고 다 심지어 삼지 누야 소소 그 돈 차리거든요. 누야 답에 뭐 차리거든요. 그걸 차버도 저렇게 용해서.
And then Songren says, and then what is the result of having purified all confusion? The result is the attainment, the realization of the three kayas within yourself. So there is the Dharmakaya, and the Dharmakaya is primordially pure. It's the space-like nature. And within that, so the essence of this space-like nature is the Sambhogakaya. And the Sambhogakaya, from the Sambhogakaya arise the perfect Buddha qualities, the 30 major marks and the 80 minor marks of a Buddha that lack any concrete substantial existence. That's the Sambhogakaya. And this Sambhogakaya nature is all pervasive. And so from the all pervasiveness arises the Nirmanakaya. And the Nirmanakaya then appears for the sake of sentient beings, to benefit sentient beings. So he appears as the pure aspect of sentient beings to benefit sentient beings.
真的就是没来这边才种多，可种是呢，有路上出外上课的是有路上有的路上的话路会多话，出外出上的出外了，上课先说讲上课，但看板的。 你嘛这样都给带上个，他就看把用多有日子的嘛，他就这样用肯定带上的。我都说，别人的我，你嘛这样他就有啥的哇，这样的我用可有啥的哇，啥他就他别讲骂着现在骂着家属呢，对，说讲啥，说完的啥，看把见多，先把用的没单看，我这双看的来说的哇，我这有路上出位，有路环道的出位。 对，双卡呢是这同样切换接不其实，我这双卡的要不嘛，今天这同样都是偷啊，我有了牛毛偷啊，这看人家都他就没得事，没同事现在就是，说吧都是要不同嘛的是的，还这我听到一同样的看人家都就没得事。 그 달에 밤자를 마시나 세워도 다 계속 내가 나서 다 물을 잘 신분으로 저 저는 대절 집지 상대 류대는 스톱들이 그 달에서 밤자를 찍어라 자 밤바치네 단 전거를 스트라스 세시니 어떤 전후도 마시나 최선미 그러와 좀去年 세워다 다다 전 마토는 치마라다 다른 주면에다 그러에 좀에 나需要내가 요래스 어떤 내줘 잘라 용어시 어떤 마 자, 탑지 시간은 너무 제쇼 쓴다 다녀모다. 어떻게 보세요? 공제쇼 정도와.
Milarepa, him, so he gave this analogy of a mind that has cleared away all confusions of wrong views. And so he said, this mind that is without the confusion of wrong views and misconceptions is like, you call it like a kind of a fort, you know, like what do you call a fort in the old days, when you had this kind of wall around your city, and then you had the knights or the soldiers kind of watching out or whether somebody's going to invade. So they were kind of sitting on those forts, just watching if anybody would come. If they wouldn't watch, then somebody could sneak in that kingdom. So this mind is like that. It's like this this watchman. and it's always watching. I was watching out. It's like yeah, like a watchman. And if you don't watch, then the five afflictive emotions, they will slowly creep in again. And so Milarepa said, now is a time where we have a precious human body. We have all those 18 qualities complete. That is the time where we have to go out and defeat the enemy. We have to catch the enemy. If we don't catch the enemy now, then there is a great danger that this enemy will drag us down into the lower realms, into some more deeper into samsara. Now, where we can catch the enemy, Milarepa says, this is what I have done. I've caught the enemy of the five afflictive emotions.
tene da sorgo ten cham si tene nga zo karma jo gom ja go te ja yin tene da chena zo kan ru gom ja na te ru jo tene karma jo ta gom ja chi ro ten cham chi.
So we stop the teachings here today, and we will now meditate for 10 minutes. And so you can meditate whichever way suits you the best.
tene chena zo da ji be che wa ma ta da gom na de re cham ni de da gom na de re yang na da xin ne da gom na de khare gom na tene te ru gom srwa.
For example, you can meditate on death and impermanence. You can meditate on love and compassion, or you can practice shamatha, calm abiding, whatever you wish.
dedication, you can so. It's in 17 maybe. English.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of Hidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions. Please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana and the innate root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of mind as such, and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
Yeah, thank you. Then, so, something about this she goes that in
Also at some point we are also going to do some questions, just not today, but some other time we will also do questions.
This I got Jim James.
We'll see you all next week.
Yeah, okay, thank you. In that the year is a Jordan Joroto to check.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, to get check.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. See you next week.